The red moon rose over Nocteris Prime, painting the black towers of the Obsidian Palace in shades of crimson. Princess Serafina Velcora stood before her mirror, watching servants fasten jewels into her silver hair. The blood moon came only once every 100 years, and with it came the selection ceremony. She was 347 years old. She had seen 3 blood moons before this one. 3 times, princes from across the galaxy had come to win her hand. 3 times, she had refused them all. This time would be different. Her mother had made that very clear. "You look troubled, daughter." Serafina did not turn around. She could see the Queen Mother's reflection in the mirror. The older vampire moved like shadow itself, her dark gown trailing across the floor like spilled ink. "I am simply tired, Mother. Tired." The Queen Mother's voice was cold. "You have been tired for a century. Tonight your tiredness ends. You will choose a consort, and if none of them please me..." The Queen Mother stepped closer. Her eyes, red as the moon outside, narrowed with warning. "The galaxy whispers of war, Serafina. The Dravani Empire grows bold. The Voldorian Collective watches our borders with hungry eyes. We need allies. Strong allies. You will choose." Serafina said nothing. What could she say? Her mother spoke the truth. The Noctari were powerful, but they were few in number. Their empire had stood for 10,000 years through careful alliances and marriages. Love had nothing to do with it. Love. She almost laughed at the word. She had forgotten what it felt like to want something, to feel anything at all. The ceremony hall was vast, carved from black stone that seemed to drink the light. Thousands of candles floated in the air, held aloft by ancient magic. Representatives from 100 worlds filled the gallery, their eyes fixed on the throne where Serafina sat beside her mother. The first prince entered with the sound of drums. Prince Malachar of the Dravani Empire was massive. His scaled body towered over his guards, and his yellow eyes swept the room with the confidence of a predator. He wore armor made from the bones of conquered enemies, and when he smiled, his teeth were sharp as knives. "Princess Serafina," he said, his voice rumbling like thunder, "I bring you the gift of power. Marry me, and the Dravani war fleet becomes yours. Together, we will crush any who oppose us." He placed a chest at her feet. Inside were the crowns of 12 fallen kings. Serafina inclined her head. "The Noctari thank you for your generous gift. Prince Malachar." He grinned and took his place among the suitors. The second prince arrived in silence. Prince Kyrith of the Voldorian Collective floated rather than walked. His species had evolved beyond physical bodies long ago, existing now as beings of pure thought wrapped in shells of light. He had no face, only a smooth surface that reflected everything around him. "Princess," his voice spoke directly into her mind, bypassing her ears entirely. "I offer knowledge. The Voldorian archives contain the wisdom of 1,000,000 years. Choose me, and all of it becomes yours." He presented a crystal that pulsed with inner light. Inside it, she could see galaxies spinning, equations dancing, secrets waiting to be learned. "The Noctari thank you," she said again. The third prince was beautiful in a way that made others uncomfortable. Prince Thalvax of the Zorani. Dominion had wings like stained glass, and eyes that shifted color with every heartbeat. His species were artists and warriors both, famous for their deadly grace. "I offer eternity," he said, his voice like music. "The Zorani live as long as your people do. We would have centuries together, Princess. Centuries of partnership between our empires." His gift was a painting that moved, showing their 2 empires united under twin suns. Serafina nodded, her face revealing nothing. Then, as the Zorani prince took his place, a small commotion broke out near the entrance. The human delegation had arrived. They were so small compared to the other species, so fragile-looking. Earth had only recently been granted observer status in the Galactic Assembly. Most of the galaxy still considered them children, barely worth noticing. There were only 5 of them. An ambassador in formal dress, 2 advisors, and 2 soldiers serving as security. They walked with careful steps, clearly aware of how out of place they were. And then one of them did something strange. A servant carrying ceremonial wine stumbled. The tray slipped from her hands, bottles falling toward the stone floor. The alien delegates nearby stepped back, annoyed by the interruption. Prince Malachar laughed at her clumsiness, but one of the human soldiers moved. He caught 2 bottles before they hit the ground and steadied the tray with his other hand. Then he knelt down and helped the servant gather what had fallen, speaking to her quietly. His voice was too soft for Sarafina to hear, but she saw the servant's face change from fear to gratitude. The soldier smiled at her. Not a political smile, not a calculated gesture, just simple kindness. Then he stood, returned to his delegation, and resumed his position as if nothing had happened. Sarafina found herself leaning forward. "Who is that?" she asked her attendant. "The human?" "I believe he is called Lieutenant Daniel Carter, Your Highness. He serves as security for their ambassador, Daniel Carter." She tested the name in her mind. Without thinking, she reached out with her psychic senses, trying to read his emotions as she did with everyone. The Noctari were masters of the mind. No thought was hidden from them, but Daniel Carter's mind was strange. It was loud and chaotic, filled with colors and contradictions that made no sense. She could not read him clearly. It was like trying to hear a single voice in a storm. Interesting. The Queen Mother stood, drawing all attention back to the throne. "The suitors have presented themselves," she announced. "Tomorrow, the trials of worth begin. Through these trials, the princes will judge who's most fit to stand beside her. 3 tests await: a test of strength, a test of wisdom, and a test of character." The crowd murmured with anticipation. Sarafina barely heard them. Her eyes kept drifting back to the human soldier standing quietly in the corner. He was nothing, a mortal from a primitive world. He would be dead of old age before she finished her next century. And yet, for the first time in decades, she felt something other than boredom. She felt curious. As the ceremony ended and the guests filed out, Daniel Carter glanced up toward the throne. For just a moment, their eyes met. He did not look away in fear or bow in submission. He simply nodded, a small gesture of acknowledgement from one person to another. Then he was gone. Lost in the crowd, Sarafina touched her chest. Where her ancient heart had not truly beaten in centuries, something was different. She did not yet know what it meant, but she intended to find out. The arena beneath the palace had not been used in 50 years. Now it blazed with light as thousands gathered to watch the first trial. The test of strength. Sarafina sat in the royal box, her mother beside her. Below, the 3 princes prepared for combat. This was not a fight to the death. It was a demonstration, a chance to show what they could offer in battle. Prince Malachar went first. The Dravani warlord faced 10 combat drones armed with plasma weapons. He did not bother to dodge. The blasts hit his scales and bounced away harmlessly. Then he moved, faster than something so large should move, and tore the drones apart with his bare claws. Metal screamed. Sparks flew. In less than a minute, nothing remained but scrap. The crowd cheered. Malachar raised his fist in victory, his yellow eyes finding Sarafina in the stands. "For you, princess!" he roared. Sarafina clapped politely. Her face showed nothing. Prince Kyrith's demonstration was different. The Voldorian did not believe in physical combat. Instead, he showed his mental power. 20 armed soldiers entered the arena, all volunteers. Kyrith simply looked at them. One by one, They froze in place, their weapons falling from numb fingers. Then they turned and marched out in perfect lines, completely under his control. "The mind is the greatest weapon," Kyrith's voice whispered in everyone's thoughts. "With me, your enemies will defeat themselves." More applause. More polite nodding from Seraphina. Prince Thalvex was the most beautiful to watch. The Zorani prince danced through the air on his glass wings, fighting a dozen hovering combat spheres. His movements were art. Every strike was perfect. Every dodge was graceful. He destroyed the spheres one by one, spinning and twisting like light itself. When he landed, not a single hair was out of place. "Strength and beauty together," he said, bowing to Seraphina. "As our union would be." The crowd loved it. The Queen Mother looked pleased. The trial was a success, but Seraphine's attention had wandered. Near the arena's edge, she spotted the human delegation watching from the lower seats. Daniel Carter stood beside his ambassador, his eyes following the combat with professional interest. He was not competing, of course. Humans were not suitors. They were barely guests. Then something happened. A figure emerged from the crowd behind the human ambassador. Seraphina saw the flash of a blade. An assassin. She opened her mouth to call a warning, but she was too far away. Daniel moved. He did not panic. He did not freeze. His arm came up, caught the assassin's wrist, and twisted. The blade fell. In one smooth motion, Daniel swept the attacker's legs and brought him to the ground, pinning him with a knee on his back. The whole thing took 3 seconds. Guards rushed forward to take the assassin away. The human ambassador looked shaken but unharmed. Daniel released the attacker to the guards and stepped back, checking on his ambassador first, then scanning the crowd for other threats. He had not killed the assassin. He had not broken bones or drawn blood. He had simply stopped the threat with the minimum force needed. Seraphina found herself standing without realizing she had risen. "Impressive reflexes for a human," the Queen Mother observed. "Yes," Seraphina agreed quietly. "Very impressive." The second trial took place the following day. The test of wisdom. In the Hall of Ancestors, the 3 princes sat before a council of Noctari elders, ancient vampires who had seen empires born and die. They asked questions about philosophy, strategy, and morality. There were no right answers, only answers that revealed character. "A planet under your protection rebels against you," one elder asked. "What do you do?" Prince Malakar's answer was immediate. "Crush them. Rebellion is a disease. Cut it out before it spreads." Prince Kyrith considered longer. "Study their minds. Find the source of the discontent. Remove the leaders and reshape the rest." Prince Thalvex smiled. "Negotiate first. Show strength second. A planet that chooses loyalty is more valuable than one that fears it." The elders nodded, recording their observations. Seraphina listened but found herself unmoved. These were political answers, calculated responses designed to impress. There was no truth in them. Later that evening, she walked through the palace gardens alone. Or so she thought. She heard laughter coming from behind a fountain and moved closer to investigate. Daniel Carter sat on a bench, speaking with a young Noctari girl. The child was perhaps 8 years old, a daughter of one of the servants. She looked up at the human with wide, curious eyes. "Is it true your people cannot fly?" the girl asked. Daniel chuckled. "Not on our own. We build machines to fly for us." "That sounds hard." It was. It took us a long time to figure it out. We fell a lot. He paused. But we kept trying. That is what humans do. We fall, and we get back up. Why? Daniel thought about it. Because the sky was so beautiful. We wanted to touch it. And we do not like being told something is impossible. The girl giggled. You are strange. Very strange, Daniel agreed with a smile. Seraphina stepped out from the shadows. The girl gasped and dropped into a bow. Daniel rose and faced her calmly. Your Highness, he said. I apologize if we disturbed you. You did not. She looked at the child. Run along, little one. It is past your bedtime. The girl scurried away, glancing back once with curiosity. Seraphina sat on the bench. After a moment, Daniel sat beside her. Most would have waited for permission. He simply sat, as if they were equals. You speak to servants and children as if they matter, she said. They do matter. Many would disagree. They would say a soldier's time is better spent with important people. Daniel shook his head. Important people already have plenty of people talking to them. It is the ones everyone ignores who need kindness the most. Seraphina studied him. His face was open, honest. There was no calculation in his words. He simply meant what he said. You are a strange human, Daniel Carter. So I have been told, Your Highness. They sat in silence for a moment. The moons rose above them, the red one and the white one dancing together in the dark sky. Why did you not kill the assassin yesterday? She asked. He was already beaten. There was no need. Prince Malachar would have torn him apart. I am not Prince Malachar. Daniel met her eyes. Killing should be the last choice, not the first. Seraphina felt something shift inside her. A warmth she had not felt in many, many years. She stood. The final trial begins tomorrow. The test of character. It takes place in the blood crypts beneath the palace. I have heard. Sounds dangerous. It is. She paused at the garden's edge. Watch yourself, Lieutenant. Not everyone here wishes humanity well. Is that a warning, Your Highness? She almost smiled. Almost. Considerate advice from someone who has survived 3 centuries of politics. She turned to leave, then stopped. And you may call me Seraphina. When we are alone. She did not wait to see his reaction. But as she walked away, she heard him speak. Good night, Seraphina. Her dead heart almost remembered how to beat. The entrance to the blood crypts was a mouth of darkness carved into the mountain beneath the palace. Cold air rose from its depths, carrying whispers that were not quite words. This was sacred ground. Here, the ancestors of the Noctari rested, their spirits bound to the stone itself. The test of character was simple. Walk into the crypts. Let the ancestors see your soul. If they found you worthy, you would emerge unharmed. If they did not, well, few spoke of what happened to those the ancestors rejected. Prince Malachar entered first, his massive form disappearing into the shadows. The crowd waited in tense silence. Minutes passed. Then he emerged, his yellow eyes wider than before, his hands trembling slightly. But he was whole. The ancestors have judged me worthy of alliance, he announced, his voice not quite steady. Prince Kyrith floated into the darkness next. He was gone longer. When he returned, his form of light flickered and pulsed as if disturbed. Worthy, he confirmed, saying nothing more. Prince Thalvex walked in with confidence and walked out with humility. His beautiful wings hung low. Worthy, he whispered. The crowd murmured. All 3 princes had passed. Now it was a matter of which one Seraphina would choose. But the ceremony was interrupted. A guard rushed forward, whispering urgently to the Queen Mother. Her face went pale, which for a vampire was saying something. There has been an accident, she announced. A section of the lower crypts has collapsed. Several servants are trapped. Gasps filled the crowd. The lower crypts were ancient and unstable. A collapse could mean death for anyone caught inside. Who is trapped? Someone called Dot the guard swallowed. 12 servants. And the child Lyra. Seraphine's blood went cold. Lyra, the little girl from the garden. The one Daniel had been speaking with. She looked toward the three princes. They stood apart, watching with expressions of mild concern, but nothing more. "A tragedy," Prince Malachar said. "But we should not delay the ceremony for servants." "The structure is unstable," Prince Kyrith added. "A rescue attempt would be foolish." Prince Thalvek said nothing, but he made no move to help either. Seraphina felt rage building inside her. These were the rulers the galaxy offered? Men who would let a child die rather than risk themselves. Then she heard running footsteps. Daniel Carter pushed through the crowd, his face grim. He had heard the news. Without stopping, without asking permission, he ran toward the crypt entrance. "Lieutenant Carter!" His ambassador shouted. "Stop!" He did not stop. Seraphina made a decision. Before anyone could react, she followed him into the darkness. The crypts were a maze of tunnels carved thousands of years ago. Bones lined the walls, skulls watching with empty eyes. The air was thick with dust, and the weight of the dead. Daniel moved quickly, following the sounds of distant screaming. Seraphina caught up to him easily, her vampire speed far surpassing his. "You should not be here," she said. "Neither should you." He did not slow down. "But there is a child trapped in there. I am not going to stand around while people talk about how sad it is." The tunnel split ahead. Daniel paused, unsure which way to go. Seraphina closed her eyes and listened. Her senses were far sharper than any human's. She could hear heartbeats, smell blood, feel the vibrations in the stone. "Left," she said. "They are left." They ran. The collapse had blocked most of the tunnel, but a small gap remained. Daniel dropped to his hands and knees without hesitation and crawled through. Seraphina followed, her royal gown tearing on the sharp stones. On the other side, they found them. 12 servants huddled against the far wall, dust covering their faces. And in front of them, Lyra, her small body curled into a ball, crying. "Lyra!" Daniel ran to her, kneeling down and checking her for injuries. "Are you hurt?" The girl looked up, tears streaming down her cheeks. "The rocks fell. I was so scared." I know. Daniel gathered her into his arms. "But we are going to get you out of here. All of you. I promise." Seraphina moved toward the servants, helping them to their feet. "Can you walk?" They nodded, too frightened to speak. The ground trembled. More dust fell from the ceiling. "We need to move, now." Seraphina led the way back toward the gap. The servants crawled through one by one. Daniel helped each of them, making sure no one was left behind. Seraphina stood watch, her senses alert for any sign of further collapse. Then the ceiling cracked. A massive stone broke free, falling directly towards Seraphina. She could have moved. She was fast enough. But behind her, Daniel was helping the last servant through the gap. If she moved, the stone would crush him instead. She raised her arms to catch it. The impact drove her to her knees. The stone was heavy, even for a vampire. Her bones screamed in protest. But she held it. "Go!" she shouted. "Get them through." Daniel looked back and saw what she was doing. His eyes widened. "Seraphina." "I said go." He pushed the servant through the gap, then turned back. Instead of escaping, he moved toward her. "What are you doing?" she demanded. "Leave." "Not without you." He braced himself beside her, adding his human strength to hers. It was nothing compared to what she could lift alone. His muscles strained, his face turned red with effort. But he would not leave. Together, they shifted the stone just enough. Seraphina threw it aside with a final burst of strength. They fell through the gap just as the tunnel collapsed completely behind them. They lay in the dust, breathing hard. Or rather, Daniel breathed hard. Seraphina did not need to breathe at all. "You are insane," she said. "So I have been told." She turned her head and saw that he was bleeding. A cut on his arm, probably from the sharp stones. His blood ran red and warm, filling the air with its scent. Seraphina froze. She had smelled blood countless times in her long life. Alien blood, human blood, every kind imaginable. But this was different. Daniel's blood called to her in a way she had never experienced. It was like music, like starlight, like something precious she had lost and suddenly found again. Her fangs extended without her permission. Her eyes burned red. Daniel noticed. He did not flinch. "It is all right," he said quietly. "I trust you." Those words struck her harder than any blow. He knew what she was. He knew what she wanted to do. And he trusted her anyway. She forced her fangs to retract. She forced her hunger down. "We should get you to a healer," she said, her voice rough. They emerged from the crypts to cheers. The servants were safe. Lyra ran to her mother's arms. The crowd looked at Daniel and Seraphina with amazement. The Queen Mother's expression was unreadable, but as the medical staff rushed to help the injured, Seraphina heard something else. A whisper in her mind. The voice of the ancestors she had lived with all her life. "We have seen his soul," they said. "He is worthy." Seraphina looked at Daniel, who was refusing treatment until everyone else had been helped first. A mortal man. A fragile human. And yet, in the eyes of her ancestors, he had passed a test that even princes struggled with. She touched her chest again. Her heart still did not beat. But something inside her had awakened Dot, and she knew with certainty that everything was about to change. The medical wing was quiet in the hours after midnight. Most of the injured servants had been treated and sent home. Only Daniel remained, sitting on a bed while a healer finished wrapping his arm. Seraphina stood in the doorway, watching him. "You should be resting," the healer said to Daniel, not unkindly. "I will. Just checking on the others first." The healer sighed with the exhaustion of someone who had dealt with stubborn patients before. She finished her work and left, nodding to Seraphina as she passed. The princess entered the room. Daniel looked up. Despite the cuts and bruises covering his body, he smiled when he saw her. Not the careful smile of a diplomat. A real smile. Warm and genuine. Seraphina. He used her name without her title. "Should you not be preparing for tomorrow? The final selection and all." She sat in the chair beside his bed. "I have been preparing for this ceremony for 100 years. One more night will not matter. 100 years. He shook his head slowly. "I can barely plan a week ahead. That is because you only have a few decades. You do not have time to waste." Is that what immortality feels like? Having time to waste? Seraphina considered the question. No one had ever asked her that before. The alien princes certainly never cared what she felt. "It feels like drowning," she said finally. Slowly, so slowly you do not even notice you are underwater until centuries have passed. Everything becomes distant, muted. You stop feeling things because feeling things hurts, and you have forever to hurt. Daniel was quiet for a moment. "That sounds lonely." "It is. And the princes? Do they understand that?" Seraphina almost laughed. "The princes want power. They want an alliance with the Noctari Empire. They do not want me. They want what I represent. Then they are fools." She looked at him sharply. "You speak boldly for a mortal in the presence of royalty." "I apologize." He did not sound apologetic at all. "But someone should tell you the truth. You deserve more than being treated like a prize." The words hung in the air between them. Seraphina had been called beautiful, powerful, valuable, strategic. She had never been told she deserved anything. "Why did you go into the crypts?" she asked. "You could have died. You almost did die. And for what? Servants and a child you barely knew?" Daniel thought about it. "On Earth, we have a saying. The measure of a person is how they treat those who can do nothing for them. He met her eyes. Lyra could not help my career. Those servants could not advance humanity's position in the galaxy. But they were scared and trapped and needed help. What kind of man would I be if I walked away? A smart one. A safe one. Maybe, but not a good one. He shifted on the bed, wincing slightly. My father was a firefighter. He ran into burning buildings for a living. When I asked him why, he said, someone has to. Might as well be him. He smiled at the memory. He died saving a family from a factory fire. I was 15. I am sorry. Do not be. He lived the way he wanted to live. He died the way he wanted to die. There are worse things than that. Serafina leaned forward. And what about you? Is this how you want to die? In a collapsed tunnel on an alien world, saving people who will forget your name in a generation. Daniel met her gaze without flinching. If it means someone lives who would have died, then yes. That is exactly how I want to go. She did not understand. 300 years of life, and she could not understand how someone could value others so much more than themselves. You are remarkable, she said. Softly, I am just human. That is what makes you remarkable. They talked through the night. Daniel told her about Earth, about its oceans and mountains, its wars and its peace, its cruelty and its kindness. He spoke about human love, how messy and painful it could be, but how humans chose it anyway because a life without connection was not worth living. Serafina listened, and for the first time in centuries, she felt something stir in her chest. Not her heart beating, but something else. Something she had thought was dead. Hope. Dawn was approaching when the door slammed open. The Queen Mother stood in the entrance, her face twisted with cold fury. Behind her stood guards and advisors, along with the 3 alien princes. So, the Queen Mother said, the rumors are true. Serafina rose to her feet. Mother, I can explain. Explain what? That you have been spending your nights with this human instead of preparing to choose a proper consort. Prince Malachar pushed forward, his yellow eyes burning with anger. This is an insult to all of us. We came here to compete for her hand, and she wastes her time with this primitive creature? Watch your words, Daniel said quietly, standing despite his injuries. Malachar laughed. Or what? You will fight me? I would break you in half before you could blink. Enough. Serafina stepped between them. This man saved lives last night, including mine. He deserves respect. He deserves nothing. Prince Kyrith's voice invaded her thoughts. He is mortal, weak, insignificant. You shame yourself by associating with him. Shame? Serafina felt her own anger rising. You 3 stood by while servants and a child were trapped in the crypts. You did nothing. He risked his life. For servants, Prince Thalvek said dismissively. Hardly worth noting. Daniel's fist clenched, but he stayed silent. Serafina could see him holding back, refusing to make the situation worse. The Queen Mother stepped forward. Serafina, you will end this foolishness now. The selection is tomorrow at sunset. You will choose one of these princes. You will do your duty to the Noctari Empire. And if I refuse? The silence that followed was deafening. The Queen Mother's eyes narrowed. Then you will be stripped of your title. You will be exiled from Noctaris Prime. You will lose everything. Serafina felt the weight of those words. Everything she had ever known. Her home, her people, her identity. Prince Malachar grinned. Perhaps we should remove the distraction permanently. He stepped toward Daniel, claws extending. Touch him, Serafina said, her voice dropping to something ancient and terrifying. And I will consider it an act of war against the Noctari throne. Everyone froze. The princes stared at her. The guards stared at her. Even the Queen Mother looked taken aback. You would threaten war over a human? Malachar asked, disbelief in his voice. I would burn the galaxy to ashes for him. She did not know when she had made that decision. Perhaps she had not made it at all. Perhaps her heart had made it for her. The heart she had thought was dead. The Queen Mother studied her daughter for a long moment. Something flickered in her ancient eyes. Surprise, perhaps, or recognition. Very well, she said at last. You have until sunset tomorrow. Make your choice then. Choose wisely, daughter. Choose correctly, or suffer the consequences. She swept out of the room, the princes and guards following. Serafina and Daniel stood alone in the silence. You should not have done that, Daniel said quietly. Probably not. You could lose everything. I know. He moved closer to her, close enough that she could smell his blood again, that intoxicating warmth that made her hunger in ways she could not describe. What would you do? She asked. If you were in my place? Daniel reached out and took her hand. His skin was warm against her cold fingers. I would choose what makes me feel alive, he said, even if it costs everything else. Serafina looked at their joined hands. Mortal and immortal. Human and vampire. Everything about this was impossible. But impossible, she was beginning to learn, was just another word for worth trying. Stay with me, she said, until sunset. Always, he replied. And for the first time in 300 years, Serafina smiled. The Grand Throne Room had never been more crowded. Representatives from every corner of the galaxy filled the viewing galleries, their eyes fixed on the raised platform where the selection would take place. The blood moon hung at its peak through the crystal ceiling, painting everything in shades of crimson. Serafina walked toward her throne, dressed in black and silver, her head held high. She had not slept. She had not needed to. Instead, she had spent the final hours before sunset, thinking about everything she was about to sacrifice and everything she might gain. The Queen Mother sat on her throne, watching her daughter with unreadable eyes. The three alien princes stood in a line before the platform, each dressed in the finest clothes their empires could provide. Prince Malachar wore armor of black bone, a crown of conquered kingdoms on his head. Prince Kyrith pulsed with light, his formless body radiating power and knowledge. Prince Thalvex stood with wings spread wide, beautiful and eternal dot, and behind them, in the section reserved for observers, Daniel Carter stood with the human delegation. He wore his simple uniform, no medals or decorations. Just a soldier watching history unfold. Their eyes met across the room. Daniel nodded once, just as he had that first night. A small gesture between equals. Serafina took her place beside her mother. The Queen Mother stood, and the room fell silent. We gathered tonight under the blood moon to witness the selection of a consort for Princess Serafina Velcora, she announced. 3 worthy princes have presented themselves. 3 have passed the trials. Now, the princess will make her choice. She turned to her daughter. Serafina, name your chosen. Serafina rose. Her gown whispered against the floor as she walked toward the princes. Every eye in the room followed her dot. She stopped before Prince Malachar. The Dravani Empire offers strength, she said, her voice carrying across the silent hall. Your fleets could crush any enemy. Your warriors know no fear. You offer me power beyond measure. Malachar smiled, showing his sharp teeth. Serafina moved to Prince Kyrith. The Voldorian Collective offers wisdom. Your archives contain the knowledge of 1,000,000 years. Your mind can see into the thoughts of others. You offer me secrets beyond imagination. Kyrith's form pulsed with anticipation. Serafina stopped before Prince Thalvex. The Zorani Dominion offers eternity. Your people live as long as mine. Our partnership could span centuries without end. You offer me permanence. Thalvex bowed gracefully. The room held its breath. Seraphina turned away from all three princes. She walked toward the observer galleries, toward the small human delegation standing in the back. Gasps erupted throughout the hall. She stopped before Daniel Carter. "And humanity," she said, her voice clear and strong, "offers something none of them understand." The silence was absolute. No one dared to speak. No one dared to breathe. Daniel looked up at her. His face showed no surprise, only that same calm steadiness she had come to love. Yes, love. That was the word. Humanity offers the ability to feel, Seraphina continued, turning to address the entire room. Your kind lives such short lives. Every moment matters to you. You love fiercely because you do not have forever. You fight for what is right because you know time is precious. You run into collapsing tunnels to save children you have never met because that is simply who you are. Prince Malachar stepped forward, his face twisted with rage. This is absurd. You would choose a mortal over an empire? Empires fade, Seraphina replied. I have watched a dozen rise and fall. Power means nothing if you are too dead inside to feel it. He will be dust in a few decades. Prince Kyrith's voice screamed in everyone's minds. What can he possibly give you? Seraphina smiled. It was a real smile. The first one the court had seen from her in over a century. A reason to feel alive. The Queen Mother stood. The room fell silent again, waiting for her judgment. Seraphina, her mother said slowly. You understand what this choice means? The Natari have never bonded with a human. There is no precedent, no alliance, no political gain. I understand. You would give up everything we have built? Everything I have worked to protect? Seraphina met her mother's eyes. I would give up everything to feel something real. And this, she reached down and took Daniel's hand, is the most real thing I have felt in 300 years. The Queen Mother stared at their joined hands. Human fingers intertwined with vampire. Mortal warmth against immortal cold. Then she spoke again, her voice strange. The ancestors in the blood crypts, they judged him. They did. They found him worthy. Murmurs spread through the crowd. The ancestors had never judged a non-Noctari worthy. Never in 10,000 years. You were there, the Queen Mother said. You heard them speak? I did. The Queen Mother was silent for a long moment. Then, to everyone's shock, she began to laugh. It was not a cruel laugh. It was the laugh of someone who had just understood a joke that took centuries to unfold. Well then, she said, who am I to argue with the ancestors? The room erupted in chaos. The princes shouted in protest. There, delegations threatened to leave, to break alliances, to declare war. But the Queen Mother raised her hand, and silence returned. The selection is made, she declared. Princess Seraphina has chosen. Let none challenge her decision. Prince Malachar stepped forward one final time. The Dravani will remember this insult. Remember whatever you wish, Seraphina said. But know this. Any who threaten my chosen will face the full wrath of the Noctari Empire. And I have 300 years of rage to unleash. Malachar held her gaze for a moment. Then he turned and stormed out, his delegation following. The other princes left as well, their offers rejected, their pride wounded. But they left alive, and perhaps, in time, they would understand. The human ambassadors stood frozen, mouth open in shock. Daniel gently released Seraphine's hand and walked over to him. I think I might need to resign my commission, sir, he said. The ambassador blinked. You. This is unexpected? Daniel offered. That is one word for it. Seraphina approached them. Ambassador. I hope this does not cause difficulties for Earth. The ambassador swallowed hard, then seemed to find his voice. Your Highness, I believe this might be the most significant moment in human diplomatic history. Difficulties are the last thing on my mind. Despite everything, Serafina felt herself relax. Later, after the crowds had gone and the throne room had emptied, Serafina and Daniel stood together on the balcony overlooking the city. The blood moon was setting, giving way to the soft light of dawn. "You know, I will grow old," Daniel said quietly. "You will watch me age and die. I know. You will have decades with me, not centuries. I know that too." He turned to face her. "Is that enough?" Serafina reached out and touched his face. His skin was warm. His heartbeat pulsed beneath her fingers. So fragile, so temporary, so precious. "Humans have taught the galaxy something it forgot long ago," she said. "It is not about how long you have. It is about what you do with the time you are given." Daniel smiled. "Who taught you that?" "A strange human who ran into a collapsing tunnel for a child he barely knew." He pulled her close. She could smell his blood, hear his heartbeat, feel the life radiating from him. And for the first time in centuries, she did not feel hungry. She felt complete. "So what happens now?" he asked. "Now? Everything changes." She looked out at the galaxy stretching before them. "Humanity is no longer alone. The Noctari stand with you. And together, we will show the galaxy what it truly means to be alive." In the months that followed, the universe watched in amazement as the Noctari-Human alliance grew stronger. Earth's status rose. New treaties were signed. Old prejudices began to fade dot, and in the Obsidian Palace, a vampire princess learned something she had thought impossible. Her heart, dead for 3 centuries, began to beat again. Not physically. That would never change. But in every way that mattered, Daniel Carter had brought her back to life. One moral heartbeat at a time.